Morning. So we're up to Shin Lamed Dalet Seif Gimel. So we're talking about Rahman Islam. If there's a delay on Shabbos, there's a fire breaks out on Shabbos, and we said in Seif Aleph that Chazal say you are allowed to save Mozen Sholosh Su'udas. And now we're going to explore that a bit more. So says the Mechaber in Gimel, Hitzil Pas Nakia. So a fire's broken out, and you want to quickly scramble and get some food and take it out. And you saved pas nakia, which means good quality bread, fine flour. Lo yatzil pas hadra, you can't then go back in and get challahs and bread from pas hadra, which is coarse bread. Pirush pas shenitl hadara, dahainu pas subin, the splendor has gone away. It's i.e. inferior quality for flour. Aval ibchashari, but if you first went and got the shvacha bread, the bad, poor quality bread, then you're allowed to go back in and get the better bread because you're upgrading. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Hitzil pas, vafilu hitzil hu pas harba. Even if you saved a lot of bread, Rishoim b'nei beisay gamkein lahatzil kol echod mozen sholosh sudas af yicholim nechol shecholim nechol mishalei. Even if I took a lot of three sudas for me, and there's quite a lot there, and others of the family could partake of that, still they're each allowed their own gimel sudas, and they can take of their own stuff. Each person is entitled to that amount. Even if I've got other food available, I'm allowed. Chazal allowed me to take mozen gimel sudas. Even if I happen to be fasting that day, I'm allowed to save. Chazal didn't make any distinctions. If you look at footnote 15, he says, so too, if the person is ill or is a zokein, and therefore he's not going to eat as much as normal, nevertheless, and you can take gimel sudas. Okay, pas hadra, says the Mishnah Berurah, it's not considered a harama that you can say, I prefer to take pas hadra. That's not considered the harama. Shari, mipnei sheyochel loima machmas bihilusi shachachti v'lakachti pasadra. You can turn around and say, I was so confused. It was such a sort of a stressful occasion that I ran and got inferior bread. Avol be'emes ani wrote selechel pas nakia. V'afil lachatchili yochel lahatzil pasadra v'achach nakia. Even you can do it the other way around. You can actually take pasadra, the shvacha bread, and then say, whoops, I should have taken the good stuff. And then you go back in and take the good stuff. V'hu adin boss of a dog in Meshaminim, afilim hitzel kvar min echod, yocholema min sheni ani chovetz. I took the schnitzel, I really wanted the beef. It's an interesting, what he's thinking of, I don't know. Dalet, matzilin. Says the Mechaber, Matzilim Yom Kippurim Shabbos. Oh, Tazay, how about that? Always a connection. So you're allowed to say Yom Kippur. When was the last time we mentioned Yom Kippur? Matzilim Yom Kippurim Shabbos. So very interesting. Rahman Islam, you shouldn't know of such things. But if there was a fire on Yom Kippur, then you're allowed to say for Shabbos, Avalei Shabbos Yom Kippurim, because on Yom Kippur you can't eat. So there's no, if it is, let's say Yom Kippur is on a Sunday, we'll see that the Mishnah explains that, but it can't fall on a Sunday. But if Rahman Islam you got a Shabbos before the Yom Kippur, so then you can't save on the Shabbos afternoon for Yom Kippur because there's no need to eat on Yom Kippur, right? V'yontov or nor for Yontov, because on Yontov you can cook for itself, so you can't save on Shabbos for Yom Kippur or for Yontov for Leil Shabbos Haba, nor for the next Shabbos. Avam Yom Kippurim and Matzim Kippurim Matzilin Mozen Suda Achas. But if it's on Yom Kippur, then you can save not 3 meals but 1 meal. For Matzim Kippur you need to eat. Says the Mishnah Berurah Yud Gimel. Because on Shabbos you can't prepare. Mashenkein Shabbos liyantav. On Yantav itself you can prepare. We're talking about a case like I just described, where Yom Kippur falls on a Sunday. Is when you're going to eat on Sunday night. So on Sunday night, you'll go and you'll prepare something to eat on Motzei Kippur. Even though the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says that you can't have nowadays, because the way the calendar has been fixed, have a Shabbos and Yom Kippur next to each other on a Friday or on a Sunday. The Chiddush is, the Shulchan Aruch writes this sif, knowing that it can't work out, to teach me that if Yom Kippur falls on a Thursday, Wow, like this year. And he won't have time to buy food for Shabbos on Friday. Matzilin. In that situation, you're allowed to be matzil. That's the chiddush. So it tells me this halacha that you can, to teach me that in the event that the rest of the Yom Kippur falls on a Thursday and you're not going to have time on a Friday to buy, you're allowed to save for Shabbos. Okay, Mozen Suda Achas. Because if you don't eat Motzim Kippur, then it's dangerous. You need to eat. However, if it falls on a Sunday Yom Kippur, they don't allow you to save on Shabbos for Motzim Kippur because that they were machmir in that situation. To say, okay, they'll say that on Motzei Yom Kippur you'll work it out. Okay, hey, matzilin lechoyle lezakin leravson kabeinani. You can save the gimel sudas for a choyle and a zaken who eats much less than that, or for a ravson, who is very sort of hungry, greedy person who eats a lot more than that. You always save gimel sudas. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that's the amount Chazal say you can take. So even if a guy is a chayla zokin who has 1 meal, 2 meals on Shabbos, or a ravson who eats 5 meals on Shabbos, still Chazal say 3 meals. Mozen suda. Sorry, I've jumped. Okay, vov. When it says that you can save 3 su'udos worth of food, that's in 2 different kelim. If you've got one big pot, then matzina filu yesh b'mea sudas. You can put as much as you want in that one pot. Va'afilu paras talisoi, even if you spread out your talis, your cloak, v'kipel v'hevi l'seicha, and you put loads of foods into it, v'chozav v'kipel, and then you fold it again and you put more food in. V'hevi l'seicha muta, kivin shemoitzi hakol b'pamachas, because at the end of the day it's like one keli, and you can bring it all out in one go. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Vasif and Tez Zion, peris talisoi, peras talisoi, va'afilu im hoya hamozon become a kalim, even if you've got lots of food in lots of different kalim, and you're pouring out the contents into the talis, that would be okay. But just to put all the kalim in one big talis, that's not allowed. Because that's treated as more than one keli. So emptying out the food into one cloak, that would be okay. But putting lots of different pots into one cloak is not. Zayin. Mutter lahatzel klitashmishay hatzrichim le'la'isa could go in cases for kitonius. It doesn't only apply to the food, but you can save whatever you need to eat, the bowls and the pots and the knives and forks and things like that. Says the Mishnah Berurah, could go in cases for kitonius. Fuadin shar kelim hatzrichim le'tzorich sud. Also could go in kappas, the sakinim v'chadema, spoons and knives. You're allowed to save that as well. Ches v'loivesh kol mashiachal lilbesh moitzi poshet. You've got a cupboard full of clothes. So what you can do is you can put your clothes on and just dress up and put on 3 jackets at one time. And then you go back in and you can put on more clothes and go and do that repeatedly. But there are those who say you can only do that once and just dress lots of things. Now, why is that okay? So it says in Mishnah Berurah, that which we don't when it comes to food or mashkin, why is it with clothes we are allowed to go in and out repeatedly, but not with food? What is the difference? The concern with food is that we allow him to take the 3 Mozen Gimel Sudas is because if we don't, he might come to be mechaber or something like that. Here, the only heta is by you wearing it. Then that itself is a reminder. He'll remember that it's Shabbos and he's not going to do anything more. He won't come and carry or do something else. But to carry them out by his hand, he can only take out what he needs for the Shabbos. He can take out his coat and his jacket and his hat or whatever he needs. But if he's wearing them, that's the simon, that's a heka, and it will be okay to do it. We pass that you can go in repeatedly in this situation. Okay, let's just do tests. Now, interestingly, so if the Charachman is on there's a fire, you can tell other people, Rabbi said, come and take Mozen Gimel Sudas. That's what you can say. And these people can also come and dress in your clothes so that you can take them out of the house. And if they want to, they can be zeich this from the hefka, i.e. this is all hefka, and therefore this belongs to them now. In this case, But if they don't want to keep the goods, the food or the clothes, and they just want to get paid for going backwards and forwards for half an hour, Harishus Biyadam, they're entitled to do that. V'lo have schar Shabbos, and it's not a problem of schar Shabbos. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Kosan Chof, Boi Vatzilu Lachem, Avol Ein Yochel Levaksham. You can't say to them, listen, I've got a fire, quickly, come and help me. That you can't say. Because then all he is allowed to take out is Gimel Sudas. But what he can do is say, Rabbi, come and take for yourselves. That's what we allow him to do. But they can come along and take for the person whose house it is more than 3 sudas. When it depends who they're saving it for. If they're doing it for themselves, no problem. If they're doing it for the fellow, then is it that way around? Yeah, that's if they're doing it for themselves. But if they're doing it for the fellow, they can take as much as they want, as much as they need to. Yeah, no problem. Okay, v'yicholim lilbosh, says the Mishnah Berurah Chof Aleph, v'bezeh yochel loyma boyu v'atzilu imi, come and save with me, tahanu b'shvili, i.e. for me, to mzonos mishum deloi chazi ki im gimel sudas. Then you can only save gimel sudas. Lochach chuchruch loyma hatzilu lochem, save for yourselves. Masha'in came, then he's allowed to save as much as he wants. Again, if he says, do it for me, then it's only Gimel Mozen Gimel Sudas. But if he says Hatzilu for yourselves, they can take out much more. Masha'in came b'levushim, Masha'in came in the clothes, the Kachozile lekuli yoma, because they're suitable for the whole day, they can take as much as they need. Masha'kosvim roitzim a Mozen Koi, if they want to say, look, we're not being Zoich of this, we'll take this, and we'll take it out, but we want to get paid. A Mozen Koi, or Poshet, and just like he can put on jackets repeatedly, go in and out, so obviously the others can do the same. Then it's not hefka. I would have got Jewish people who would have saved it for me. Because I could have got a guy to do it. But if they don't want him, they should yodim shlomer sono hifkira, because he didn't really voluntarily be mafkir it. But then they can get paid for it, and they're not koiner it. Because they didn't really go down to get paid. Because in essence they were being koiner from hefka. And if afterwards he later says, hey look, take all your stuff, but just pay me, during the week if that happened, then they've got to pay. But on Shabbos, there's a svara to say this is a problem of schar Shabbos. Then you can no longer say I'm taking it from hefka, and then you're taking schar Shabbos, which is a problem. I'm Mogavrom Ashikosu Bezeh b'Shem Shiltzi Giberim v'Aim Be'eli Rabbi Shem Mefakfek Olav. V'hinei al Mashikosu Shulchan Aruch to Zeichim in a hefka kosu v'Mogavrom. I'm B'Cheshin Mishpat Simon Reish Test with Simon Shin Samaches. The din of the Machlusa Delay Mahani Yesh. The din is that Yesh is not going to help you. Ve'Efshet Hachash Shani Kimin She'oma Hitzilu Lochem, because he told them go take it, and therefore it does help. Is B'Gemara the Chosid Leita Schar, but a Chosid shouldn't take schar for this sort of thing. The Yesh Levatzim Mishaloi B'Chol Dovor Sheyesh By Nidna Davera. Where there's a shail of an avera, then just be mevata, and the Kodesh Baruch will make it up for you in other ways. What an appropriate way to end on Yom Kippur. Okay, Gemach.